I will call to night session of Stafford County Planning Commission to order. I would ask all to rise for the invocation, which will be led by Ms. Bailey, and then remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance, which will be led by Mr. Cohen.
Lord, we give thanks for the many blessings that you've bestowed upon us. Thank you for the opportunity to gather this evening. I ask that you prepare our hearts and our minds as we consider the business before us. Give us insight to lead with integrity and wisdom, that our decisions may reflect what is right and good for those that have placed their trust in our leadership. Lord, watch over the men and women that serve to protect our freedoms. In his name, amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Cohen, would you please call the roll?
Yes, sir. Mr. Apicella? Here. Ms. Bailey?
Here.
Mr. Boswell? Here. Mr. English?
Mr. English will not be here this evening.
Mr. Gibbons?
Here.
Mr. Rhodes?
Here.
And myself. Sir, you have a quorum.
Thank you very much. Are there any declarations of disqualification for any item that's on the agenda this evening? Hearing none, we'll move on to public presentations. I would like to just take one moment for 2 points. First off, we have a shorter than normal agenda this evening, just two active items. So I would just like to announce and make individuals aware that we're taking advantage of the opportunity. And after a short break, after we are finished this evening, Mr. Cohen will be chairing a subcommittee meeting of the Comprehensive Plan Subcommittee. Additionally, I would just like to reinforce that for the public presentation portion, anyone that would like to speak on any item other than item number one can do so, and particularly we would invite folks to take advantage of this opportunity to provide comments and feedback and input to any portion of the comp plan update work that is going on thus far, or concerns or interests or otherwise. We will make this open announcement each time we have our public presentation opportunity, just to reinforce and get public comment as we work on the comp plan update. So with that, with public presentations, if there's any member of the public that would like to speak on any item except for item number one, to include any comments on the comp plan update, please come forward and do so at this time. Seeing no one racing down the hall, we will move on from the public presentations portions and move on to the public hearing. Public hearing item for the amendment to the zoning ordinance, proposed ordinance 015-35. Mr. Harvey.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Please recognize Mike Zaraf for the presentation.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the Planning Commission. Mike Zaraf, the Planning and Zoning Department. If we can have the computer, please. This item is an ordinance amendment, ordinance 15-35. Which would amend sections of the RBC zoning district performance standards. The amendment would serve to increase the percentage of the RBC district that can be allocated to multifamily homes, and specifically the change would increase that area from 1.5% of the RBC district to up to 2.5% of the gross area of the RBC district. This is a request that was first made by the Silver companies. It was done with their concurrent rezoning and conditional use permit requests that they've made to expand the proposed previously approved multifamily development. Back in 2013, that previously approved multifamily development was approved, and at the time, the RBC ordinance was amended to allow multifamily units in up to 1.5% of the district. With the new expansion that was proposed by the applicant for that project, it did require this need to modify the performance standards. So to kind of help describe the effect of that increase, provided a table that shows the existing situation across the top row and the proposed situation, going over from the left to the right. The multifamily dwelling unit acreage, currently 9.91 acres. It would be increasing up to 24.72 acres. You can see the total RBC zoning acreage would increase with this, with the concurrent zoning requests, just rezoning requests. And as a part of that, the percentage of multifamily uses within the district would increase from 0.8% up to 2.05%, specifically related to the projects that were proposed and you heard last month. And as we've discussed, currently the maximum permitted multifamily percentage is 1.5%, and the proposal would take it up to 2.5%. Staff does note, you can see that there's a delta difference between what is provided under the current and proposed projects and what would ultimately be permitted in the district. If you look at the difference in the amount of land area, there is currently 8.3 acres in the RBC district that could otherwise be expanded upon for more multifamily units if the applicant seeks a conditional use permit. Under this latest proposal, that acreage would be reduced, but it would still be 5.4 acres where somebody could expand, where there could be additional multifamily units. So the additional RBC, the additional 5.4 acres under this proposal could occur. There could be development of multifamily dwellings without a future rezoning under this, but there would be the requirement for a conditional use permit. The 5.4 acres, as it relates to some of the other zoning requirements, for multifamily in the RBC, the maximum density is up to 16 units per acre. Applied to the 5.4 acres, that there is a potential for 86 additional units under this change on other land in the RBC district. Looking at additional evaluation as it relates to the comprehensive plan, specifically in multifamily uses, they are in our current comprehensive plan recommended in urban development areas. This area is designated business and industry on the future land use plan. Staff does note that prior approval of this use back in 2013 does make it a more compatible modification to the ordinance. As it relates to the purpose of the RBC district, the RBC district purpose states that RBC zoning districts should be located near significant environmental features such as forests, lakes, and lakes with at least 5 acres of surface water area and/or rivers. So this is more of kind of a natural setting that are features that are not necessarily found in the county's urban development areas. But staff does note that the intensity of this use that's proposed is not necessarily out of character with the other uses that would be permitted in the RBC district, which includes office development, also other higher density single family development as well. And so staff does note then also the concurrent applications that the commission has previously considered would be inconsistent with the zoning ordinance should this amendment not pass. Staff does recommend approval. We find that the amendment is compatible with multifamily homes that are already permitted in this area, and staff does note and recommend. Note that the applicant did contact us, and in response to the concern raised about the additional 5.4 acres, they're recommending that maximum cap be reduced in the ordinance from 2.5% down to 2.1%. Right now, they could go up to the proposal under consideration really requires only 2.05%. So this provides a little wiggle room should the acreages not quite be accurate. So with that, staff would turn it back for any questions.
Questions of staff? Yes, Mr. Gibbons.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, other questions of staff? Okay, very good. Does the applicant have anything? I don't think so, right? Because we're kind of,
Since it's an
they're coming to
ordinance,
us for, okay.
Yeah, they applicant for the other concurrent rezoning applications could speak under public
No,
comment.
that's fine. So with that, we'll open this up to public comment. If there's any member of the public that would like to speak on item number 1, they may come forward and do so at this time. With that, we will close the public comment portion of the public hearing and bring it back into the Planning Commission.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I'm not sure if it's necessary, but I would make a motion to amend the proposed ordinance to reduce the percentage from the proposed 2.5% to 2.1%.
Okay. Motion second. Further comment, Mr. Appicello?
I appreciate the applicant addressing the percentage issue. It was a concern raised by staff, and by doing this change, I think it mitigates the concern that an extra roughly 86 units could be built without a rezoning or proffers.
Very good. Further comment, Mr. Gibbons? Any other member? And I would just note that because this is not making it more expansive, even though it's been advertised for public hearing, this is certainly a change that we can make to make it less impactful. So with that, all in favor of the motion, which is to modify the draft language in the ordinance to go from increasing it to 2.5% of the gross area of the district to 2.1% of the gross area of the district, signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Passes 6-0. Okay, with that, now it's back with the Planning Commission to deal with the recommendation on the proposed zoning ordinance.
Mr. Chairman, I would recommend approval of the proposed ordinance 015-35.
A motion recommending approval by Mr. Appicello, seconded by Mr. Gibbons. Further comment, Mr. Appicello?
Mr. Chairman, this is consistent with and necessary for the related rezoning and CUP requests that the Commission recommended approval on at our last meeting, so I think it's appropriate to go ahead and move forward with it.
Very good. Further comment, Mr. Gibbons? Any other member? Motion before us is to recommend approval of proposed ordinance 015-35 with the modified language that we just voted on. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Passes 6-0. Wonderful. With that, items 2 through 5 are deferred to the 18th of November, which moves us on to new business. Item number 5, SUB 15150656, the Courthouse Manor Preliminary Subdivision Plan. Mr. Harvey. Oh, we need to wait a minute.
If we could take a short break while
we are going to take a 1 or 2 minute rest in place. We need to take care of an administrative issue. Sorry about that. You told me twice, too. I know. Technology with us. Very good, Ms. Horning. Now we're back.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the Commission. The number 5 item that is before you this evening is a preliminary subdivision plan for Courthouse Manor, SUB 15150656. Okay, computer, please. Are you advancing?
clicker.
Oh, the pen doesn't work. Okay. Here we go. The project is Assessor's Parcel 30-78 and 30-136. It's located at the north side of Courthouse Road, west of Dent Road, and south of Hope Road. The parcel size is 33.45 acres, and it's zoned R1 suburban residential with a CUP conditional use permit that was approved this year, R15-16. The number of lots are 75 single-family residential cluster with a density of 2.24 dwelling units per acre, and that's in the Aquia election district. And the schematic shows you the 2 parcels in that area. This schematic also shows the zoning, and you see that immediate around the site is R1 residential, and you have A1 south of Dent Road agricultural, and then you have some B2 further west. Here is an aerial view of the project, and you see that you have Stafford Elementary School immediately to the west. Does the pen work at all? Oh, there we go. In the middle of the project, this is a church. And then you see Dent Road here to the south, Courthouse Road, Route 1 to the far west, and then Hope Road to the north. This is the overall preliminary subdivision plan. And this is a clean copy, and further I'll highlight some of the other aspects of this subdivision. You can see the 75 lots, the church is here, you have the elementary school down here. One item of interest is that they're connecting through the school for sewer through this area. Then you have, there is a proposed courthouse bypass from Hope Road to Dent Road, which is this area to the top. This is where it's highlighted. It's a 60-foot right-of-way. There are some areas along the way that will have, that are easements for buffering for future design of the road. And right now it's just, it's in the comprehensive plan, and it's predominantly on paper. There has been no design or planning for this courthouse, northeast courthouse bypass. You also see that there are several access points for this subdivision. Not only do you have the ones designated by circle in the red circles along the Courthouse Road, there's an interparcel connection from the subdivision to Courthouse Road here, and then south of the area from the bypass to Dent, there is the primary access right here to Dent, as well as a right-in, right-out down here at Courthouse Road. There is an interparcel connection with tax ID 3079 at this point, excuse me, for future development of that parcel, so that there is an interparcel connection. Some other features for this subdivision are that there is a 15-foot access easement right here that allows the access from the subdivision onto the school property. Also, there is a 6-foot sidewalk right here that allows access to the school property, and they have proposed a tot lot in this area. Well, we'll go back here.
Can you indicate where the hospital is in relation to this?
The hospital will be further, well, it's going to be further to the right and to the north, to the top. Let's see, the north arrow is facing to the right, so it's going to be northeast, bottom right of the page. Oh, sorry, bottom right of the page. The subdivision also has several buffers surrounding it, as it adjoins not only the future bypass, but the other parcels. In this area, let's see, in this area right here, we'll use green to signify the buffering, which is a 17.5-foot buffer and 6-foot board-on-board fence. You also have the same to the due east area down here, adjacent to the school. The other areas are 20-foot buffers, which are to the top part of the property. Basically, all the lots will be buffered from the adjacent uses. So there's at least a 20-foot buffer or 17.5-foot buffer and fence. Around the church, there is a 35-foot buffer from the subdivision to the church. This is the overall, a clean version of the subdivision, where you can see it a little bit more clearly without a lot of the graphics on there. The open space has been set aside for the areas around the bypass, as well as some of the buffering. Now, since the approval of the cluster ordinance, where buffering is not allowed to be included as part of the open space calculation, this one was completed prior to that. The cluster was already approved prior to the approval of the ordinance, so this probably would have taken on a little different schematic as far as open space is concerned. And that sums up all the specifics about this cluster subdivision. It meets all the requirements for the subdivision ordinance. Some other items are that they completed a phase 1 cultural resources study. The Stafford County Historic Commission recommended that this phase 1 study was sufficient, but they also conducted a phase 2 study. So that was already completed. And as was listed in the staff report, predominantly most of the conditions of the conditional use permit have already been attained by the development of this, and they will also be solidified during the construction plan, provided this is approved. And the engineer is present for any additional questions that you may have, but I'm ready to answer any questions you might have on this proposal.
Questions for staff? Okay, pretty straightforward. Is there anything else you needed to add? Are there any particular questions for any of the applicant's representatives? Very good. Yep. This one, Jorn.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion for SUB 15150-656, the preliminary subdivision plan to be approved.
A motion for approval. Is there a second? Second by Mr. Boswell. Further comment, Ms. Bailey?
No further comment.
Okay, Mr. Boswell? Any other member?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, please, Mr. Cohen.
Respectfully, I'm going to have to vote against this. When this first came before us, I had numerous things that caused concern, and one primary one was the bypass road. And in the comments from the supervisors, when they had this, several of them raised the same concern with having a 2-lane bypass road that's going to have left in to the subdivision, which I think is problematic. It could have had a right in, right out up along the bypass as it is having on Courthouse Road. I believe staff said it's anticipated to have 10,000 plus cars going up and down that bypass, and I just think that it being a 2-lane road with people stopping to make a left-hand turn into the subdivision is problematic. And so just to be consistent and for public safety, I just think that aspect really could have been done better.
Any other member? One of the rare actions we actually don't just recommend on, we actually approve or disapprove. So with that, all those in favor of the motion to approve the preliminary subdivision plan, SUB 15150-656 for Courthouse Manor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed?
No.
Okay, it passes 5-1. Thank you all very much. Good luck. With that, we move on to the planning director's report. Mr. Harvey.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just have one item to share with the commission. The last Board of Supervisors meeting, they approved the applications for the North Stafford Business Park. If you recall, that was a proffer amendment as well as a CUP amendment for a location of a drive-through associated with a grocery store.
Yes.
It came out in the newspaper today that the grocery store is looking to be a Walmart grocery store. It's a Walmart neighborhood grocery store. Yes, thank you. And that concludes my report.
Very good. Thank you very much. County Attorney's report.
I have no report at this time.
Very good. Committee reports. Do you want to just defer that since we'll have your session, or you want to talk?
Nope, I'll defer.
Thanks, sir. Chairman's report. We didn't quite lock down, and we entertained one last round of comments, I think, on the format of the staff report. Is there any other comments or feedback? Okay, we had a few there. I know that Mr. Harvey was capturing it and staff were capturing as we went along. So I guess there's no other inputs, and you already started to move some around, didn't you?
Yes, sir. With the land use cases, rezonings,
That's right.
special use permits.
They are just on it, by golly. Okay, well, we'll go with those inputs and suggestions. So thanks for that, and thanks for the idea there, Mr. Apicella. It was a good idea. With that, we have TRC information. Everybody got nothing up? Nothing queued up? You were too comfortable down there. Right?
If I may. No, nothing, excuse me, nothing was submitted for October 28th, but because the holiday is November 11th and the dates have been changed not only for your meeting, but we also revised the schedule for November 18th to be the the TRC committee meeting, you will receive your agenda because we have about 4 projects. So, excuse me, it'll be a full day on the 18th. We already have that scheduled.
Very good. Okay.
And you'll receive that information on the 28th, excuse me.
Thank you. And then we have the minutes to approve. So I think that is. We missed anything, Mr. Harvey?
Not that I'm aware of, sir.
What's the record for the fastest meeting? I think this is it, right? We're going to call it. We're not going to look back in minutes or anything. We're just going to say that this is the fastest. So with that, for the Planning Commission meeting, we are adjourned. And then with that, we'll take a moment, move some seats around, and we're going to start up, I guess, with the 5 minutes?
5 minutes.
5 minutes, according to the chair, we will start up the comp plan update subcommittee meeting in 5 minutes.